Hey there, how are you? Possibility seekers, it's hard to believe that this is our 100th episode. When I started this podcast a little over 2 years ago, I had no idea what a wild, awesome, beautiful journey this was going to be for me and a whole bunch of guests that I had. And I thought a way to share a few stories from my book has turned into basically almost 100 conversations with different women about things like courage, pivots, self care, purpose, trusting the process, and a lot more than that. There's one thing that connects us, though, I would say. We're all works in progress, learning to create the lives we love, one choice at a time. So today I want to look back, not just to celebrate this milestone, but to pull out some of the lessons that keep showing up again and again, the patterns, the truth, the reminders that we need when life gets messy. So, what's chapter 1? Let me break down what I've learned here. Lessons to our younger selves. There's one question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what would you tell your 30-year-old self? And the answers, no matter the industry, the background, the generation, sound almost the same. Relax, you'll be fine. Stop trying to control the outcome. Trust yourself. Have a good time. Don't sweat the small stuff. All the things that say, chill, you've got this. That need to do everything perfectly to get it right. We've all been there. In episode 1, Dr. Karen Latimer told us to talk to ourselves like we talk to our best friend. In episode 18, Jennifer Faraday showed us that giving yourself grace wasn't a weakness. It was just a turning point, embracing the pivot. Let's hear what Jennifer Faraday had to say in her own voice.
You were talking about not giving yourself grace when you had moments of pivot. And I think you had some of the smartest pivots of anybody I know. But I'd like you to kind of unpack that for the audience and talk about, where you were and the pivot you made, and then the other pivot you made, and then ultimately where you found yourself in hindsight, realizing that those pivots really served you.
Yeah, it's so easy in retrospect. In retrospect, you see the path, but sometimes along the way you don't. So if we're specifically talking about career, for example, I had a very non-linear journey, right? So I graduated, not really unsure what I wanted to do. Took a quick job through corporate recruiting and advertising because of the prestige of it. Working in we're in New York City in an agency at the time in the early '90s. So I took it, and it was a great first job. But I quickly realized that this was not for me, and that I took it for again the prestige. I ended up starting a career about 10 years in education, which I loved. And that was a decision from that internal narrative, right? I really thought about what I wanted to do, and I really loved education and teaching. And so I followed my kind of passion and my interest towards that. Then, as career, as life happens, there's different stages. I had children, and for many different reasons, I was taking a look at that career choice and realized that maybe I was coming to the end of that, and that I wanted to do something else. And wasn't sure what to do. I was thinking at the time that I was always interested in entrepreneurship. And at the time I started doing my own family finances. And I thought, oh, maybe there's a career in finances that I would want to pursue. And I ended up doing a really 180 and getting my CFP and pursuing finances.
Which, by the way, for those of you listening, is not a small feat. Okay. It is a huge, huge commitment and also very difficult.
Yeah, and very difficult because I also had never had any experience in finances. My major, no economics, no any kind of finances growing up. But that's why I wanted to do it, actually. I was very interested in the fact that as a female and as someone who was so educated, that I had this knowledge was never taught to me, but it was so important for women to know this. And so that was kind of my intuition, my passion, going if the right quote unquote right reasons for going into that and making that change. But once I got my CFP, the reasons why I entered it, kind of like to teach women, kind of combine that kind of my old career in education, teaching, with this passion now I had about finances and teaching women. That's what I wanted to do with my CFP, but I ended up kind of in a more traditional wealth management role on planning and in portfolio management. And while I don't regret it, it was not why I made that decision in the first place. And I was kind of, I wouldn't say stuck there, but I stayed there for a while. And it was like putting on a sweater that just didn't fit right, but because didn't, I didn't think of that I could take it off, to be honest. We can get into why, but I felt like um, I had to stay there because, and you said because the CFP was so difficult, and I went and I made that change. Like, could I really make another change? Like, there was a lot of questions about whether I could really pivot off of that career path. Where I am now is I do work for a wealth management firm, but in a different type of role, and I can bring in a lot of the other things that I was interested in the past. So I have been able to craft like a really nice position and role for myself, but it took me a long time to get there. And I would like to say before we get maybe to other things that some of this is less too about the circumstances, about whether I'm wealth management, whether I'm in teaching, whether I'm pivoting into what or other, and more about what you're saying to yourself in that. That is so important. Like just the stories you tell yourself while you're in wherever you are in your journey. So I think, whether or not I stay here or not, it, I think there was a long time in that career where I was just almost beating myself up and had just a lot of self doubt around my choices. And that's the piece that I hope that, through your book and through these interviews that you're having, people get a little bit from is how you're talking to yourself in those choices and in the decisions that you're making.
That reminder to give ourselves grace kept showing up in every episode. So many guests have echoed it in their own words: compassion over perfection. Imagine if we could actually live that advice. Chapter 2, as far as I can tell, was about pivots and reinvention. Across so many episodes, one word keeps coming up: pivot. The courage to start again, to start something new, to leave what looks good on paper for what feels true. Teresa Caratanudo talked about tuning out FOMO and trusting her timing and her own voice. Jacqueline Friedland left a high-profile law career to become an award-winning author. Emily Claire Hughes went from cruise ship performer to creative entrepreneur. Let's take a listen to Emily Claire Hughes from episode 83, Betting on Yourself. So this is what I always say to women who are starting businesses is like, don't spend money on stupid shit.
What stupid shit?
Like, why do you need 4 Louis Vuitton pocketbooks, as an example, right? Like, why do you need the $75,000 car when the $40,000 car will be fine? Why do you need the big mama house? Like, we literally spent $200,000 less than what the bank told us we could afford. Why? Because I wanted to be able to send my kids to school without debt. Like, if you do what they say or what you see or the Joneses are doing, you're screwed.
That's a quotable quote.
Yeah, right? So I'm like, you got at some point, yes. So back to our regularly scheduled program, you bet on yourself. You made it work and you knew that you didn't want office politics. You didn't want to work for assholes. I have a no asshole policy. I don't want to work for assholes. I can't.
But exactly. And I think what's so interesting about this is, to your point, if you like literally think about two versions of yourself, one who's in a full-time job and one who is self-employed. In that full-time job, that asshole guy, you would have to say, okay, let me figure out how we can still work together because blah, blah, blah. Because you have to stay. You have no exit. You have no option. To me, that is insane because there are so many people like that. Whereas like, this is my favorite thing about being self-employed is like, we can choose who we want to work with. I am so careful with how I try and attract new clients or try and attract new members for my email club. It's like there has to be a personality fit. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Whereas when you're in a full-time job, everything has to work.
That's right. And I mean, like, so the story of this one is like there's new leader comes in. Maybe you love the old leader and he was great. And then the new one comes in and he's a total asshole. Well, you're stuck with it.
Yeah. How much does that suck?
Oh my God. And so life is too short to work with assholes and to give yourself an ulcer for something that you could prevent.
Yeah, it was my second to last full-time job where they talk about the Sunday scaries. I legitimately had the Sunday scaries where every Sunday night my stomach would be in knots. I would just think about like, I was so anxious to open my laptop on Monday, which is ironic because most of the times I was opening it on Saturday too, right? Because that was just the kind of like work culture that we had. And I never have that. I have not once since being self-employed ever had that feeling. I have been so genuinely excited to open my laptop Monday morning and to plan for Monday morning on Sunday evening because that makes me feel even better about Monday, and it's wild. It's like a wild transformation that I wish every woman would have that feeling in their life.
That's the energy we all need. Trusting your instincts, betting on yourself, and creating a version of success that fits who you are today. Another chapter, chapter 3, wellness and self-care. Let's unpack that. Another theme that kept coming through loud and clear is this wellness concept, but not as a vanity, but as a vitality. Kathy Degatti, Rosie McCann, Danny Spies, Liz Van Voorhees, Dr. Cindy Parnes, and Katie McDonald all reminded us how we treat our bodies and minds is how we show up in the world. Let's hear from Katie McDonald from episode 90. How do you, and this is off script here for a second, but how do you help, and I guess it's mostly women really, but how do you help them see it when they don't see it from themselves? They're in, let's say, crisis mode and it's not working and they know that and they're all the things, sick, depressed, blah, 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 blah. However, they don't see the forest from the trees. I've been there. So how do you, like, what's the first step in the process to understand that self-care is not selfish and you need to put yourself through this whole cycle?
Yeah, I would say that the most common condition, so to speak, is overwhelm, right? For high achieving people and particularly women, it's overwhelm. And that's also a habit, right? It's a habit. Overwhelm is a habit. So I don't have a prescription for everyone. The first thing is to meet people where they are, to feel seen, just as we were talking about before we started recording. It's like we have a deep, desperate need to be seen and thinking that we're going to have someone else validate our very existence. And the truth is, we're waiting for ourselves to see ourselves, right? Like, let's see ourselves. So you're right. You can't see. All you know is that you're miserable and that life isn't working and you can't see a way out. And it takes that before someone who is so accomplished would say, I need help. Right? And I'm that help. And I hold what they can't see yet. I hold what I know after 15 years of doing this work, not to mention the decades of working on myself, what's possible on the other side, right? The possibilities as you speak to. And so the first thing is seeing them where they are and helping, like loving them through it, right? Like, it's okay. We're going to get you on the other side. I understand you can't see it, but I can. So borrow my faith right now. And I take the burden of solving it off them. They can't. If you're in survival mode, you are in no position to unthink your way or even undo your way out of where you are right then. The current state you're in is what created your current state. So we need another perspective. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is I give concrete homework, really simple stuff that is so easy to blow off. And it's just, the simplest it is the stuff that's likely to be, the greatest resistance. We think it's got to be some flashy, glamorous program, some extreme diet, some this, some that. And it's these simple things. And that's their homework. And they're desperate enough and they've paid enough. It's an investment in working with me. It's an investment in themselves intentionally to honor the work and my craft and to have them say, this is an investment in you. And it may be the first one you've ever made, not in your career. This is an investment in your career, but in on you. So then it's this homework of, okay, for the next 2 weeks, because I see clients every 2 weeks. For the next 2 weeks, it might be we're going to shut the TV off at 10 o'clock. And it might be we're going to actually go without social media for 2 weeks. And we're just going to determine. So I love removing habits so that we can determine what impact it's having on us. We're going to remove alcohol for the next 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. We're going to add leafy greens to every meal. And let's see what, and it's always, look, this is a 2 week window. And after 2 weeks, you're the expert on you. You may be coming to me, but you are the expert on you. And so for 2 weeks, this is what I want you to try. I'm available, like my clients can access me. It's concierge coaching. They can access me throughout. They're not white knuckling it for 2 weeks. I want to be able to course correct if we need to in the middle. But they start doing, and they do without the sense of like, I'm going to have to give this up forever. It's like, and we're going to renegotiate in 2 weeks. But for the next 2 weeks, we're going to observe with gentle, loving compassion what happens when we add this habit or remove this habit. And slowly, like they feel better immediately. They feel a sense of control in a way that they didn't before. And they actually start feeling physically better. So I start with the physical habits first. Because if you're eating junk all day and you're on a sugar high, I can't get through to you about anything else that's going on in your life. If you are sleep deprived, emotionally depleted, physically depleted, I have to address where the fires are at the physical level first and foremost. And then they feel better. And then all of a sudden, the drive to keep, it's not a motivation. Motivation is a fickle lover and an unreliable source of energy. But it becomes this, I feel good and I want to keep feeling good.
That conversation changed how I define productivity. It's not about how much I do, it's about how well I feel while I'm doing it. And Rosie McCann reinforced that what we eat shapes how we show up at every stage of life. Here's a quick moment from episode 78, How to Eat in the Season of Your Life.
So I think there's an overall disconnection between people's bodies and what they think they're doing. And I'm a layperson. I don't have half of your degrees and certifications, but something like this. Oh, I eat really clean. I I exercise and I eat really clean. I don't know why I'm gaining weight, right? Or why I don't feel well or whatever. And then I've seen you unpack it in the nicest of possible ways, but so tell people how you've unpacked that statement. It's like, "Oh, I eat great." Well, how do you respond to that?
So I think part of the challenge that we all have as humans is we have selective memory, right? So we sometimes think that we're doing all the right things, but they may be the right things that you did 20 years ago and don't actually work for you in this season of life or in even in this stage of what you're trying to accomplish, right? So the first thing that I suggest for anybody that I meet with, even most people before I meet with them the first time, I have them write down 3 days of everything they eat, how they slept, and everything they drink. So that's to start for 3 days. And most people will come to the first, our first encounter and say, wow, like that was an exercise just in its own because people don't usually do that unless they're super into fitness already and are doing fit trackers. And, there's all sorts of ways to track. But most of my clients that come with me with an issue have not figured that out yet. Right. So if they're coming with, I'm achy every day or I'm falling asleep at 3 o'clock at my desk, the first important thing is to just break it down. What is going on, right? How is your sleep? What is your sleep cycle? And not just the amount of hours that you're in bed, but actually sleeping, right? How many steps a day are you taking? So these are not for judgment, they're for noticing and witnessing what you're actually doing because sometimes we think we're doing better than we're actually doing. Or, like I'll have somebody that'll say, oh, yeah, I eat really well. And then as soon as you have them start writing it down, but I ate out 3 nights last week and I did have 3 cocktails, last week, or I did have 2 glasses of wine, and not that any of that is bad, right? We don't talk about good and bad, but it may not be something that is nourishing to you in this stage of life, or it may not allow you to thrive. So again, we break it down and look at what your lifestyle habits are and how we can slowly change those habits, because habits will only change when you incorporate them one at a time, and really the ones that are working, right? After a few weeks, if it's not working, if you're not seeing results, let's move on. Let's find another habit to incorporate.
Another of my favorite chapters would be about money, power, and agency. Let's talk about money, because confidence with money is power. Sarah Bean Rika from episode 41 says it best. Take a listen to what she had to say about money.
We have a number of clients who are about to retire or going into retirement. And one of the hardest things to figure out, doesn't matter how much money you have, is where am I going to get the money from and what does that look like? So we started out, we said, you know what, we're going to send you a paycheck. It's going to go right to your checking account, just like if you're working. And people are like, okay, that's great. But then you realize the follow-up question is like, how are you guys figuring that out? And are you sure there's going to be enough? So we started creating this like very simple, small little sheet that's your smart income plan that shows you year by year where you're going to get your money, written in plain English. As soon as you do that, that anxiety level and this stress level about, okay, I'm really going to do this, I'm really going to retire and this is going to work out, it's just alleviated. So we have a client who's been stressed out about this, and we just gave her the spreadsheet. She's like, I can't tell you, like, it just changed everything. Just taking with it. She just said that half an hour ago. She's like, it changed everything just to be able to see this is where it's going to come from. And so, where we hear stress, to try to alleviate that through data and through simplifying complex topics, that's so much fun. It's so much fun to have a little tiny spreadsheet that gives somebody peace. Like what a cool job that is. Can I tell you the worst part of the job? People die. Worst part of the job, point blank. We do a lot of we do a quarterly client meeting where we talk about what's happening in the markets, and we're doing one soon that we're going to start talking about just making sure all of your estate planning stuff is in order, making sure all your titling is correct, all the other important things, that your accounts are consolidated, that you're making things easy for the next person to come in line. We can make things really easy here for people. They don't always realize that, but it sucks. It just sucks. And so that is like the worst part of the job. And we've had a couple of young people pass away in the last year who I consider dear friends. And it's the worst. But
financial literacy is a theme that I really, really feel passionately about. It's for me, it's a way to exert your independence, your confidence, and your agency over your own life. And that's kind of what in episode 51, Teresa Bailey reminded us, that legacy is not just about dollars and cents. It's decisions, it's freedom, and how short a period of time we've really been able to control money decisions. Until the 50s, women had to get co-signers for loans or mortgages or any of the sort of financial instruments we take for granted today. But it's only been, several decades that we've had those options. So when we understand our finances and we're controlling our finances, we stop apologizing and we make the right decisions for ourselves. And the notion of, oh, girls, science, math, numbers, I'm not good with money. You know what? I've heard that from business owners. And to that I say, really? You have a successful multi-million-dollar business, but you're not good with money? That's a story. So listen to what these ladies had to say and unpack that story for yourself and see if you're showing up with a similar version of a narrative that doesn't serve you anymore. If you're running a successful multi-million-dollar business, I'm pretty sure you are good with money. So have fun with that one. The thing I wanted to talk about was you have you have a lot of knowledge and advice on estate planning. And I wanted to just kind of have the audience listen to just top level things that you want them to take away. I have this great handout that you provided to me, which hopefully we can have as a download link on your on the show notes. But kind of high level, what is it that we should be know? Should we know?
Given coverture law, which again is what I'm on fire about, which was our legal status. We didn't have a legal status. Now we do. We can own things and we can be, we can inherit things a lot easier. It's not that we always couldn't. It was just through a much different lens that evolved over time. And it was very state specific. So now I encourage women to not skip the meeting with the estate planning attorney. And whether you're married or single, I run into many single women who just don't understand, to your point, Monique. They don't understand it. And they think, well, once I understand it, I will meet with an attorney. And then they, unfortunately, never take the time to dig in because it's not easy to understand. It's law. But I see a lot of married couples that the woman shows up at the end for the signing. And whether it's, estate planning around what happens when the husband or wife passes, or either partner passes, there's also marital division, that you need to understand how everything in your household is owned to make sure that you have the access and control that you desire.
So you have things like, how will you act on your behalf if you're unable? So the idea of also healthcare proxies and powers of attorney and things like that, where who gets my kids if I pass, and if both of us pass, what happens, and who gets to do what and what roles they have. I've heard a couple of war stories where people are not paying attention to their beneficiaries on their documentation and on their accounts. So this idea that your beneficiary it overrides what's in your will. So if you want it to go to your children, but your beneficiary is your ex-husband and you get divorced, your ex is getting your money.
Absolutely. There are many wonderful attorneys that will give you a list of your homework items and follow up with you and make sure you do them. And there are also many attorneys trying to earn a living. And once you walk out that door, you have done the documents, and in their mind, that is the extent of their involvement with you. But what often will happen is there are unspoken homework items, like you just mentioned, Monique, where you needed to change on your retirement account the beneficiary from being a spouse or a child to this trust that you've now created with the attorney. But if you never point your assets back to that trust, the trust exists, but there's nothing in it when you pass away. So you've done all this work that you think is great, but there's often a gap. And that's often where someone like me, a certified financial planner or wealth manager, can step in and help bridge the gap.
Chapter 5, we talk about motherhood, work, and real life. I love this conversation. The juggle is real and it's everywhere. I think, listen, I am done raising my kids, but it doesn't mean that I don't remember what it was like to juggle it all and have your hair be on fire when your nanny doesn't show up and somebody needs to take the kids somewhere and you're the only one on deck and you've got meetings and clients to juggle. It's always fun. Amy Leone and Jen Hildreth in Tough as a Mother. They made us cry. They made us laugh. They let us know that the proof is that vulnerability is a strength. And their book, Tough as a Mother, is also worth picking up. Olympic athletes, CEOs, executives, all these working moms, regardless of how fast you are on the track or how you can throw a ball or use a racket or whatever, you're still a mom. And when we're talking about breastfeeding on planes and going to meetings with all sorts of accoutrements, all those things make us human. They're what make us the moms that we are. And according to 99.9% of these moms, they wouldn't do it any other way. Take a listen to that. What was your approach to getting these stories and incorporating these women into your book? How did that come to pass?
we both work in sports, right? So that's sort of our entree point into this. To be clear, it is not a sports book. If anybody doesn't know any of the names that you mentioned, Monique, there is a place for you still in this sisterhood. We just were drawn to the parallels that elite athletes possess that working moms bring to the table every single day. Qualities like passion, sacrifice, adaptability. To all the moms out there, sound familiar? So that was just our entree point into it, but it is not a sports book and it's not a how-to book. But our hope was that if, like you said, Hall of Fame broadcasters, 12-time Olympic medalists, WWE champions, if they can share with you through their stories the imperfections that they've faced in their lives and the challenges and the struggles that they've encountered, our hope is that every mom can show themselves a little more grace and accept that it's not them. This is what this juggle is.
And we really tried to get a wide range of experiences and stories because we truly wanted any woman who picks up this book, or any partner of a woman who picks up this book, to get a real understanding of what it feels like to be torn and trying to be in two places and be your best in two places at once, which is really what it comes down to being a working mom. And we also wanted people to be able to see themselves in places they might not have expected. Like, you might be surprised to find out that you have something in common with this Olympic athlete, or, this broadcaster who's won all these Emmys. And as Amy said, it was our goal very much not to say, look at these awesome women and look what they've done, because no mom wants to be told how awesome these other women are when you're feeling like a big pile of crap trying to do it yourself and you're a mess. No, we wanted to show the mess that everybody goes through. I mean, Amy mentioned a WWE champion, Becky Lynch, who is such a badass. And I don't even follow wrestling, but I want to follow Becky. I read her book, definitely love her. She almost cried when we talked to her. And it is that raw and powerful. And when you talk about our goals of putting these stories together, our goal was we wanted you as the reader to feel like you were having a conversation with these women and you felt that rawness and you felt that vulnerability, because that's where the connection is.
And it totally worked, by the way.
Oh, good.
It felt like I was having a conversation. In some parts, I was like, oh, you too, and oh, gee, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I thought I was crazy. And I think this power of community that we're all trying to build in different ways, but similarly, is the strength for the next generation. I think we have to normalize imperfection. Elizabeth Willits taught us that working like a mom, as she says, is a power move, not a penalty. And lastly, Kristen Fairback reminded us to say the quiet parts out loud. Let's hear her voice from episode 93, What Women Don't But Should Talk About. So this is the problem, right? So I stay in touch with these kinds of data points because it's very relevant to my life and I'm very passionate about it. We are making decisions on our health based on data that is completely the antithesis of how our bodies act, walk, talk, produce, not produce, react to stress, react to exercise, react to food. So cold plunging, like I just learned that, you know what? Cold plunging for women, don't bother doing it. You can do it at 55 degrees. 55 degrees has the same effect as a man doing it at 30 degrees. We don't operate the same way. Our cells don't react the same way. Our physiology isn't the same. So don't even do that. Intermittent fasting. Oh my God, my touch point. Like, I've been intermittent fasting for years, thinking I'm doing myself a great service. I feel great, but in essence, there's stuff that's happening that it's counterintuitive to my protein build. So it's like this whole idea of now, and I'm a very well-educated, well-read, focused individual. I'm thinking about the average woman who's trying to raise 3 kids, be at a job, do whatever, and who's not in the place in her life where she can read as much as I can read or whatever. And now she's like, I don't even know how to get out of bed in the morning because all this information is conflicting.
It's so hard to navigate it. You're absolutely right. And I think every day I'll read this, then I'll read something that's like completely like a 180. I think you've got to find your people you trust, right? I mean, I think that's what it's all about. It's doing the research, listening to everyone. I mean, I will listen to lots of different points of view and then find the people that you think, okay, this works. And then I think you also have to try and fail and try again and until you find your way.
Wasn't that great? We don't need perfect balance. We need honesty, empathy, and systems that support real women doing real work, doing their real lives with real families and real kids. So I think that's something to really focus on and embrace and celebrate working moms. Chapter 6, Meaning, Impact, and Legacy. Some of the richest conversations weren't about business metrics at all. They were about meaning. Michelle Parad, Liz Roberts, Sally Benner, and Mary McQuillan have shown us that influence is meant to be shared. And Hope Ogletree distilled it perfectly. Let's take a listen to Hope from episode 91, Women, Wealth, and Giving.
To go back to the definition of philanthropy, is that what that means is the love of humanity. And it's not just the love of humanity, it's the love of humanity. And you want to help individuals and you also want to help society. So, it's not that you're sitting and contemplating your navel and wanting to love the world. You want to actively be involved and connected to making those changes, the creating, the changing, the connecting, all of that. And so to me, we have the robber barons of the 1900s that were, making us all feel that if we didn't give $1 million, then we were nothing. But the real issue for philanthropy is if you're passionate about something. So to your point exactly, you give $100 a month and it's to this one thing that makes your heart sing. Because I want to also say these are heart conversations that we're having. It's what's changing here. It's not it's not transactional. And that's also a lot of what men do. It's a transactional gift so they can get their name on a building. No, what women want to do is have this touch their heart. And so that's where we differ so tremendously. And so I'll finish this and then you move me where you want to. If we don't really become comfortable with this thing called money, which is actually an inanimate object that has so much emotion attached to it that we have to separate that out. And, I say this, and I'm not naive about the impact of money or the lack thereof, believe me, but I say this to sort of shock people, which to me isn't very shocking, but I say it's a tool, no more, no less.
Women give a lot of meaning to money. I mean, we give a lot of meaning to a lot of things, but as a practical matter, there's two things that are happening, and in the wealth transfer environment, it's kind of dangerous. Women are feeling that they don't have it figured out. What we give, time, talent, or treasure, changes lives, not just our own, but others. So I love the conversation of philanthropy. Philanthropy doesn't mean that you have to be able to write $1 million check for you to be a philanthropist. Philanthropy means giving and supporting things that are important to you. And whether you give $20 to FUV for their independent radio, whether you give thousands or you give hundreds of thousands of dollars to your university or a cause that you feel passionately about, you can be and are a philanthropist. So let's put our money where we want to exert influence, where we want to make a difference. Thinking about a year end, thinking about the new year, thinking about what we want to do the same and differently, maybe addressing philanthropy as one of your items to focus on is a worthwhile goal. Chapter 7, Brands I Love from Women I Love Even More. So I had a couple of women who were entrepreneurs and started their own businesses and are run from organizations that I support because I think their products are superior. One, in episode 50, Véronique Gabet showed how she built a luxury fragrance house with intention and soul, and she built it right before COVID. I'd love for you to hear a great moment from my conversation with Véronique. Guys, you've been following me for quite some time. You know that I talk about this a lot, and that is that, you're not given anything. You have to step into it and work your ass off. And then it makes you the leader that you are. And I wanted you to kind of express. So basically, you're talking about the importance of mentorship, which you clearly had. And in my book, I talk about not having mentors, which was really quite hard.
Tell me what kind of a leader that made you. The experiences that you were describing. What kind of leader are you now?
When you're talking about mentorship, I think I am that. And what I always tried to do is building a team that would be complete together, meaning that I was not necessarily trying to look for the same skill sets in every person. No, I love the diversity of talent. I love the diversity of background because it brings a lot of richness. And backgrounds can be gender, can be race, can be geographies, can be anything, right? Can be also the other experiences that you had. But this, to me, was very important because it allows, if you will, to give richness to a team. What I try to do, though, which is super important, and I think people don't do that enough in position of leadership, is to make sure that all of those people that have all very different skill sets or backgrounds share something they have in common. And what they need to share in common is the value system. It's, this, because that is the cement that makes the relationship flow harmoniously and easily. If you don't share the same value system, you can't work together. I don't care how talented you are, it's not going to work.
Giela Pablaki showed us what clean custom beauty can look like when it's grounded in integrity, not hype. Listen to this from episode 94, Clean Beauty, Clear Mind. Now, what does that mean for you? First of all, what does it mean that it's a clean ingredient? And I want you to, and it's okay, we don't have to throw a specific brand under the bus, but I do want you to shed some light on how these things are made today and what we think we're buying versus what we're actually getting.
Yeah, like I won't use the brand name, but when we were in Henry Bendel for 14 years, someone was helping me and I offered them to, try one of our products as a thank you. And she says, "Oh no, I'm very allergic to mineral makeup." And I said, "Really? Why?" I mean, it's a pure ingredient. There's no fillers, nothing in it. I mean, our products are just 100% mineral for the powders. And so she worked for this brand, and I said, "Well, let me see the box." So I turn it over, I look at the ingredients, and of course there is mineral in it, but then there's a bunch of other fillers. I look at people's ingredients all the time. I said, if I'm not with them, I said, just take a picture and let me look at it for you and let me help you decipher what you're using. It could be for allergies, it could be for breakouts, it could just be for being healthy because, we absorb a lot of the makeup that are on our skin. I mean, I always say that, just based on all the research and statistics that people eat about 2 to 3 pounds of lipstick in their lifetime. So you need to turn over your ingredient list and look at your ingredients. And if you don't know them, bring them to me and I will show you what all of the inky names are. That's the, vitamin E, they don't write on that, it's tocopherol. So, I can help you decipher the ingredients to make sure that they're good for you. So a lot of the bigger brands, yes, they may say they're mineral, but there's a lot of filler ingredients in there as well. So I'm about full transparency and I want to, show you and educate you on what you're using because it's important. I mean, the customers are savvy today. They can look on the internet. There's a lot of websites with healthy ingredients to help you as well. So, you don't want to just give people products that are not good for them. So I really just always was very passionate about that in offering all skin types, all skin colors, a full range of cosmetics, which is, foundation, concealer, powders, blush, lips, cheeks, eyes, nails, and skincare. Skincare ever since COVID has been a big boom. I mean, we have a big skincare business now. I think people are paying more attention to it, which is great.
And also one of the more recent episodes from Jody Scott was a 2-part episode that we did to unpack not only her entrepreneurial journey, but also the corporate journey that she had because she sold her company and had to buy it back. Her narrative on First Aid, which I think, oh, by the way, her products are also incredibly amazing. She has a vitamin C serum that I would die for. And she's got a skincare salve and a first aid salve that is amazing. It's interesting, people that I talk to that are very committed to wellness and natural ingredients and vegan products or plant-based products. When it comes to first aid, everybody loses that North Star. They were like, oh yeah, I have to use Vaseline. Okay. I have to use Neosporin. Okay. I have to use all these toxic chemicals on my skin. Yeah, no more. Check out Green Goo from Jody Scott and a short snippet of what we talked about. It's a great name. And I love Green Goo because it's literally so representative of what it is. It's goo and it's green and it's good and it's like green goo good.
You nailed it. When we were sitting, like, what do we name this product? And we're like, well, it's actually green, plus there's actual plant properties in it. So something that we've done is we don't buy pre-made extracts on the market. So we still to this day bring the plants to our manufacturing facility, take it through this unique extraction process, yield the highest amounts of the medicinal properties from these plants, and then put together these unique oils and blends into these products. So you can't get these oils in these composition anywhere on the market. And so when we were sitting there going, okay, what is this? And the OTC market had not been disrupted since the Industrial Revolution, and everything was so clinical. And we were like, let's bring some sunshine and have some fun. So yes, you nailed it in how we came up with Green Goo.
And also, finally, my longstanding brand that I love, I get amino acids and all my protein powders from Purium. I've been I've been a quote unquote distributor. That doesn't really mean much other than the fact that I can buy it at a discount and I can share the discount code with you. I have been addicted to their wonderful vegan tested US grown and dehydrated vegan protein powders and their amino acids to get the protein levels that I need in my system and feeling really healthy and well for the last decade or so. So I share that. My family, has them as their products as well. I'll put in the codes for Giala Pablaki, for Avilani Gebe, and for Purium. Again, I'm not an affiliate of Pablaki or of Gebe. My intention is to help these ladies get the word out on their superior products and their women-owned businesses and really help each other rise. Full disclosure, Purium, I will probably make a few cents if you buy something from my link, but honestly, that's not really the germane to my motivation. If you want to feel good and you want to get more protein in your body, highly recommend amino acids and their protein powders. Okay, so brands I love from women I love even more. Check out my blog post and I will have those discount codes and some tips, some hacks, and some finds from these incredible women-led brands. If you want to check out the episodes or guests I'm mentioning today, head over to the blog post that goes with this episode. We've linked everything there for you so you can make it easy to not only order, but to order with a discount code. So after 100 episodes, here's what I know for sure. We're all works in progress. We are all allowed to pivot. We are all worthy of rest, wealth, joy, impact, and big, unapologetic lives. This show exists because I didn't have these conversations growing up or going up through my career. And I wanted you to have them in your ears, on your walks, in your quiet moments, in your conversations with girlfriends, in your conversations with your family. To every woman who shared her story here, thank you. To every listener who's ever tuned in, who is tuning in right now, share an episode where if you see yourselves in these stories, you are the reason we are at 100 and the reason that we'll keep going. Please like the show. Please share the show. Subscribe to it. It makes a difference. It really does. I hope you do that. Take 3 seconds to rate it. This is all for our community, for our tribe, to build the stories, the resources, the tips, the thinking, the ideas that all elevate our games. Here's to the next 100 conversations and to creating a life you love. I'm Monique Maio. Thank you for tuning in and make it a great day. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique DeMaio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.